Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe, and today we are going to look into the future of our beloved bless you boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Lots of different things have to change, a complete overhaul, if you will. And instead of trying to tackle all of it at once, we'll do it video by video. And in this video, we're going to talk about the top 10 Saints players that have to be replaced. And this may not happen overnight. This may not happen over the course of one or two off seasons, even. But these are 10 players, in my opinion, that we have to move on from if this team is going to become respectable again, honorable, mentionable. What we saw on Monday Night Football was a disaster. And I'm going to admit that wasn't the Saints. Okay, we're not sure what the Saints are right now, but I know one thing. With Darren Rizzi as head coach and with the starters that we could have had, that outcome wouldn't have been the way it was. Now, Rizzi lost me on this game, so any hope of Darren Rizzi being our new head coach kind of went out the window with the way he handled the end of the first half. Too much, too many questions there. There's probably better qualified people to come in here and to be our next head coach. I'm looking at the next couple of years as a rebuild, so I wouldn't mind having a guy like Rizzi as our head coach, knowing that in 2 years we're going to fire the guy anyway, and so just let him be the head coach and let him start his career, not unlike Dennis Allen, and go, you know, 4-12 or whatever, and then we move on a couple of years from Rizzi. But after this past game, I don't think Rizzi's going to enjoy that title of head coach until you get fired 2 years from now, 3 years from now. It seems like the destiny for the next head coach for the Saints because this team needs a complete overhaul all the way up to the general manager. I'm not sure if the owner's willing to do that. I'm not sure if this team's going to be sold anytime soon because she's not willing to do something like that. I wonder what the crowd is going to be like in this upcoming game against the Raiders. Will the Saints have a home crowd at all? I don't think the Raiders fans are going to travel to watch their team. And yet somehow the Saints are underdogs. Well, the reason why is because we're injured. We don't have the players that we're supposed to have. The Saints are supposed to be Derek Carr, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, and you didn't have none of that. Defensively, however, no Marshawn Lattimore, no Paulson Adebo. Other than that, you had your defense. Oh, and it was awful. Yeah, it looks like the coaches need to be changed. A lot of things about this franchise need to be changed. General manager, an entire new culture. And in this video, we're going to talk about 10 players that we have to move on from. Now, number one for everybody is going to be Derek Carr, the quarterback, of course. That's what everybody's going to say. And so he's not on this list, but I will mention him before mentioning anything else. Quarterback's the most important position. Everyone feels like we can do better than mediocre 500 ball, and we can. With Derek Carr as our starter this year, we are 5-5. That's 500 ball, and we want better than that. Without Derek Carr as our starter, we're 0-5. So Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner are not immune from the criticism towards the quarterback room in general. So I'm leaving quarterback off this list because I could very well put all three of them on here. We're not going to win any games with Spencer Rattler or Jake Hayner, and we might only win half of our games with Derek Carr. So yeah, quarterback's a position we need to address, and you got to hit on it when you do. I don't think this offseason is the time to be improving at the quarterback position. It could happen, perhaps, and we should take our swings at the plate for sure. But when it's all said and done during this rebuilding which should take a couple of years. I don't expect the head coach to stick, the new head coach to stick, and I don't expect the new players to come in. All of them are going to come in and be great, especially at quarterback. I don't see a guy in the draft. I don't see a guy on the team. So we're going to leave quarterback off the list. Go back and watch the video I did called What Do the Saints Do at Quarterback in 2025? And you can get a nice deep dive into the quarterback position in general. These are going to be 10 other players that are not quarterbacks. And I'm going to start this list, top 10 Saints players that have to be replaced. I'm going to start this list by mentioning three players who I don't think need to be replaced because necessarily because of production as much as it's inevitable and it's going to happen whether we want to admit it or not. And those three players are Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, and Cameron Jordan. They're all declining in their abilities. They're not the worst players on our team right now, but we know because of their age that eventually we're going to have to replace these guys. And we're talking about all three levels of the defense here: defensive line, linebacker, and defensive back. Wow. It's inevitable. It's going to have to happen. It would not surprise me, as bad as the Saints have played this year, that all three of these players don't just retire after this year. It would be wild. It would be like all three of them saying, "Yeah, I would rather just hang it up, call it a season, call it a career. Just hang it up as I gave it a shot. I tried to win for my hometown team in the case of Tyrann Mathieu, and we tried. It didn't work. Oh well, I'm done. I've got my Super Bowl rings. I'm at the end of my career. I'm getting run over by running backs every other game for nothing, for no wins. You got a defensive, pardon me, you got a defensive coaching staff that's not putting Matthew in the right position, and he's frustrated. And does he really want to play 3 more years to get acclimated to a new defensive scheme? And yeah, so there's lots of reasons why Tyrann Mathieu would retire. Cameron Jordan, the same thing. Everyone knows we're trying to replace him, and he's already splitting time with Chase Young. I don't think we're getting that much production out of our defensive ends this year, especially when it comes to stopping the run. And even though Jordan's playing okay, we know we can improve there. And I just think it's one of them things. Maybe he plays the last year of his contract. Maybe Matthew plays the last year of his contract. Maybe Demario Davis decides to play until this last contract is up. But I don't think either of these players could expect to resign at a decent contract. If you got enough ball in you left and you want to keep playing for the Saints, then you're going to have to take a massive pay cut and probably see less time on the field. So those three players are mentioned by me first. It's not necessarily about production. You can only expect that their production is going to decline over the next year or the year after that. But yeah, all three of them need to be replaced, and it's all three levels of the defense. All right, let's go to number 7. And number 7 on my list is running back Jamal Williams. Now, this is another player that you kind of point at the entire uh, position group. Hold on one sec. Okay, you can kind of point at the entire group, much like Tyrann Mathieu with the safeties. Uh, Not only does Matthew need to be replaced, but we need safeties big time. Will Harris is the only one doing anything besides Matthew, and he'll be a free agent. And I know you can improve over a guy like Will Harris. So running back's another position. Kendre Miller, you expect to be hurt half the year. And when he's playing and he's running the ball, he looks great. But we didn't see a lot of him in this past game on Monday night against the Packers because we were in pretty much catch-up mode the entire game, which is not unlike a 2-minute drill, which is something that we don't trust. that Kendre Miller's going to be able to do right now. So uh, we didn't see a lot of them. Instead, we have Jordan Mims and Jamal Williams out there for a lot of the game. We kind of wanted to see a breakout game from Kendre Miller, and he's been hurt. He hasn't had a lot of practice time, and I think there's some deficiency there when it comes to picking up a lot of things like the passing game in general, blitz pickups, pass pro, and running routes, catching the ball, being consistent like that. So maybe we can improve from Kendre Miller with another back that is more apt to do those kind of things. I think we're going to keep this kind of offense even if we move away from Clint Kubiak. I still think the outside zone and running backs who can do it all, including a lot in the passing game. I think that's still going to be a priority for us. Jordan Mims has had a lot of opportunities to do so and hasn't. So I have my complaints about Kendre Miller and I have my complaints about Jordan Mims, and that's why Jamal Williams being listed here is kind of reflective on the entire positional group. But Alvin Kamara is good. He signed for 2 more years. We expect a little decline in his production as well because of his age. So not sure if Alvin Kamara is, the future of this team. No, he's not. He should be okay for the next 2 years, but we need a backup, somebody we can rely on. And if Kendre Miller's going to be hurt for half the season and Jordan Mims is going to perform like a third string back at best, then we have to improve at the running back room. And the guy that's got to go is Jamal Williams. Sure, he's good in pass protection, and he can catch the ball. He's not a great receiver, but he can catch. I would assume he and Kendre Miller are about the same when it comes to catching the ball, but we have to rely on a guy like Jamal Williams because of his pass protection and things he can do on passing downs, and yeah, that it's not something great. That's not something you would check next to Jamal Williams' name and say, yeah, at least we got the receiving back. No, we don't. We got a guy that can pass protect better than Kendre Miller and Jordan Mims. Jordan Mims might be a little better as a athlete in route running and stuff like that, but overall, it's Jamal Williams. He's the one that's got to go. He's the one making $4 million, $5 million, whatever he's making. The salary has an impact on these players I'm going to be mentioning here too. So yeah, Jamal Williams has to go. We have to get a bona fide number two guy, number two back that we can trust throughout the game as a runner and as a receiver and in protection and everything else. And so, yeah, I'm expecting a lot more from Kendre Miller. And I think Jordan Mims could easily be on this list. But at number 7, I've got Jamal Williams. At number 6, I'm going with another overpriced guy who we are just not seeing enough production from, and that is tight end Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson is a great experiment. I think he deserves a lot of credit for transforming from a wide receiver into a viable tight end. But in my opinion, if he was a starter, then he wouldn't be losing his starting job to a guy like Foster Moreau, who, in my opinion, is at best a number 2 tight end, a great veteran number 2 do it all tight end. And you don't mind playing 4 games with as your starter, but you don't want him to be your starter. You need talent at that position, more talent than an aging Foster Moreau. So I love Foster Moreau. I love having him on the team. I think him as our number 2 tight end is great. And when you have Taysom Hill, you get even less snaps from Jawan Johnson. He's a liability as a blocker. He shows a lot of want to from time to time, but I see him get beat a lot. He's not strong enough to be on the line, and he's just not good enough in general at blocking. He has inconsistent hands, and if he, if his, if the best attribute of Juwan Johnson is being a receiver and being able to get separation and speed and get open all the time, well, we just don't see it. We don't see the production from the tight end position that we should. Foster Moreau's playing out of his mind, and when Taysom Hill was healthy, he was doing good as a receiving threat at tight end too. I, I don't expect Taysom Hill, quarterback Taysom Hill, to be a good receiver. So when he's out there catching passes, getting open at tight end, yeah, the reason why we play him is because he's better at it than Juwan. He's better at getting open than Juwan. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We need a starting tight end. We need a guy better than Foster Moreau. And Taysom Hill's another guy that could be on this list. He's defining the age right now, but we'll see if he comes back from this injury or not. At number 6, that's Juwan Johnson, the tight end. At number 5, I'm going with defensive tackle Nathan Shepard. So the issue with the defensive tackle position, Brian Bresee can't stop the run. We love Brian Bresee rushing the passer. Is Brian Bresee worth a first round pick if he's only going to go out there on obvious passing situations? Well, yeah, if he's going to get 7, 8 sacks a year, yeah, he's definitely worth a first round pick. He's a playmaker, but he's not good enough to be out there on first and second down. That job at the 3 tech is going to Nathan Shepard. And we're not good enough against the run for me to think Nathan Shepard's a guy that deserves to be on this team. We gave him an extension, which means we're probably going to be paying him too much against the salary cap in the next year or two. But we did it. He was one of the guys we restructured. I feel like we like him. There's that chance of him rushing the passer on passing downs from the nose. But no, on first and second down at defensive tackle, we have an issue. Brian Rasie's not getting it done against the run, and neither is Nathan Shepard. Shepard's suffering with some eye injury right now that's causing him to keep his contacts out, and he can't see without them, so he's not even practicing this week. But when everybody talks about defensive tackle and stopping the run for this football team, they don't want to replace Brian Bresee. We want him out there on third down. They're talking about replacing Nathan Shepard. I saw a lot of spunk from Colin Saunders this past game, and even though I think we can get better at the nose, at least Colin Saunders is out there trying to make something happen. Um, we're going to need a guy right next to Colin Saunders on first and second down that can play that 3 tech and actually stop the run. And it's not Nathan Shepard. I think we need to improve on Colin Saunders too, when it's all said and done. Defensive tackle is a huge need for this team, and I'm focusing on Nathan Shepard as the guy that needs to be replaced. He's here at number 5. A guy we just signed an extension to. I think we have him under contract for 2 more years, something like that. So, yeah, this team has lots of issues. At number 4, this is the biggest issue of them all, and I hate to put Ugo Amadi's name here when this is actually representative of the entire defensive back room. Ugo Amadi's going to be the fall guy here because I don't see us replacing Alontae Taylor on the roster. Alontae Taylor stays on this roster, but after what we've been witnessing this year since the injury to Adebo and the trade of Lattimore, what we've been witnessing from Taylor on the outside is not what we expected. Now, I think he can get better on the outside, but he got so much better at the nickel, and I think he's a force as a nickelback. Right now, Ugo Amadi is a nickel. Amadi did that flop in this past game, looked ridiculous. The guy he covered was caught the ball anyway. The contact was within 1 yard. It was completely legal. I don't know what Ugo Amadi was thinking. It was ridiculous, and it is a meme, and it is hilarious. But Ugo Amadi had a pretty decent game. Besides that, I mean, you can't expect much from a guy off the street making $1 million who's being asked to play 3 different positions. But at nickel, he did okay. He made a few tackles that were necessary at the time to get the other team off the field. He had a couple of pass breakups, or he was involved, and so he makes a dumb, boneheaded play in the red zone, and it's easy to see that yeah, we're struggling at that position. But overall, the player's fine. Matter of fact, I don't even think you have to get rid of Ugo Amadi. He just can't be a starter. You could keep him on the team as some depth and start, like I say, 4 games, and you'll be okay. But what you really want is Alontae Taylor back, the nickel spot. And in order for that to happen, you're going to have to get a better outside corner. And Kool-Aid McKinstry could be on this list too. He's young, and I think there's potential. I think he's going to get better. So number four is a focus on the position. We need a starting cornerback opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry so we can put Alontae Taylor back at the nickel. That's what I'm thinking. And in order for Alontae Taylor to be at the nickel, Ugo Madi can't be your starter at nickel. I'm not against Amadi being on this team, but we have problems in the defensive backfield and safety and cornerback, both of them. We really need two safeties. Yep, hold on. All right, guys, sorry about all that. It's the busy holiday season and things have changed. I've got Snickers here next to me now, wanting my attention. Snickers girl. So she'll be popping up. It's supposed to be a joyous season in the Christmas holiday spirit, but Merry Christmas has a sour taste to it now. We get the bah humbug of a Christmas with the Saints looking awful. And so now I get to play Grinch and talk about the players that shouldn't be on this team anymore. Well, like I said, Ugo Amadi's a great player. I want to keep him on the team, especially with his salary. That's not the same case for Nathan Shepard and Jawan Johnson, who are overpaid and need to be replaced. And now we're going to get into the top three. And yeah, all three of them are offensive linemen. And I'm starting at number three with Cesar Ruiz. He is massively overpaid for a very average offensive lineman. I mean, he would probably struggle to start on most rosters. I see a lot of inconsistency with Cesar Ruiz, and even when he's playing at his best, he's just a pretty good starter. And he doesn't play at his best all the time. After having him as long as we've had and paying him the money that we're paying on this new contract we gave him. Come here, Sneaky. Yeah, Cesar Ruiz has to be on the top of this list. Now, he's not a must. I mean, I think we can put out a decent offensive line if Cesar Ruiz is just one of the pieces on it, but he would be one of the weaker pieces. So I expect Taliese Fuanga to improve at left tackle, and Eric McCoy is a good center, and provided he's healthy, very good center. And then after that, I'm looking at Cesar Ruiz. I would rather replace Ruiz than to think we can get better than Fuanga's potential or what we get from a healthy Eric McCoy. So Cesar Ruiz, number three on this list. We can survive with him. Number two on this list, I'm not so sure about. Left guard, Lucas Patrick. And in extension, Nick Salderberry as well. Lucas Patrick has been injured all year. He started the season out looking great, and then after that, it's just been pretty bad. Uh, at best, Patrick seems to perform on par with Cesar Ruiz, but we haven't seen the best Patrick can be because he got hurt and he's been hurt the entire season, and even when he's now in the lineup playing, he's not playing very well, and he got injured again in this past game, and I think this injury is going to keep him out the rest of the year. Regardless, left guard is a weak link on the offensive line. Even with a fully healthy Patrick, you're talking about a guy that's been a castaway from the other teams he's been on. He's just a regular old free agent signing, and he has value if you can keep the salary down as a center guard swing guy. And once again, a guy that you wouldn't mind having to start for 4 games, maybe 6, but we can definitely improve at left guard, just like at right guard. And I give the edge to left guard as far as who needs to be replaced first. Kind of locked in with Ruiz for another year or maybe 2. But Patrick was a 1-year signing, and if we can get him back for cheap and he's healthy, then he'd be a pretty good backup. Nick Salderberry, I haven't seen enough from him to be excited about his ability to start. So left guard, a huge eyesore on this team. And the number one player that has to be replaced, if you're not talking about Derek Carr, is Caesar Trevor Penning, right tackle Trevor Penning. I almost said Cesar Ruiz and Lucas Patrick. The entire offensive line has been a letdown for this team. And in this last game, it seemed pretty evident, but upon watching some of the All 22 and some of the film breakdown, Spencer Rattler could have made something happen behind that offensive line. Even the poorest wide receivers we had were getting open on a lot of those plays, and we just weren't seeing it from the quarterback position. It's a lot to ask for a rookie fifth round draft pick to go out there and succeed in those conditions. But the overall view, the way I look at it, if Derek Carr would have been on that field, we would have scored some points. And that, despite the offensive line being in shambles and playing awful, despite the wide receivers not being top tier, these wide receivers were getting open. It seemed like Green Bay was running similar coverage over and over again, and Rattler just did not know where to go with the ball. He did not know how to maneuver in the pocket. It's tough to ask a guy to step up into a line that's performing as badly as we have been in the middle. But the edges were suffering the worst in this game, time and time again. The middle was suffering probably two-thirds of the time. But Trevor Penning was getting whipped on every play. And it's been that way all year long. You roll him out, he's an adequate starter. He does really well in run blocking most of the time. And then we can scheme some stuff up to help him out in pass pro, and that works some of the time. But why scheme up for a guy who's so inadequate when we can just replace him? I think we take the lumps on the salary and the fact that he's a first round pick and just it has to be done. Now, this is another position where the entire group needs to be focused on. I love Fuanga on the left side. If we get a left tackle and put Fuanga back on the right side, I love Fuanga as a tackle. But after that, it's horse dung. Okay. Trevor Penning is not a starting tackle in this league. He's a six offensive lineman running the ball, maybe. And I don't see him playing guard. But it's an extension of the rest of this position group as well. When a guy like Oli Udo, who is a veteran who should know this scheme very well, can't break into the starting lineup over Trevor Penning, that says a lot about Oli Udo. It says a lot about Landon Young as well. Okay, kudos to Udo and Landon Young for learning guard and trying to make themselves more valuable on this team. But we can improve on a six-round draft pick and Landon Young at tackle, and we can improve on a castaway free agent like Oli Udo who can't beat out Trevor Penning for a starting job in an offense that he knows so well. So tackle's a huge mess for this team. And it wasn't 2 months ago, I thought maybe we wouldn't have to focus so much on tackle, but no, tackle's a must. I blame Trevor Penning for the shutout loss as much as I can blame anybody else. Spencer Rattler's on the top of that list as well for this shutout. He could have done something. He could have operated differently. The guy has taken 17 sacks now, and Carr's only taken 8. And if Trevor Penning were to start, he'd be on pace to get sacked 5 times as much as Derek Carr and turn the ball over 4 times as much as Derek Carr, 5 times as much as Derek Carr. So, yeah, I think quarterback's the most important position. We all want to get better than Derek Carr. He's not on this list. Go check out the past video I did if you want to get in depth in quarterback. But that right there are the top 10 players that this team has to replace in order to be a functioning football team. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I'm Joe. Subscribe to Rosenpill 10 for more videos about the Saints. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Who dat?